everyone, this is Heather. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I've got a quick and easy Christmas card for you with a chalkboard look. I know the holidays are coming up really soon, so I wanted to share with you something that was quick and easy but still really fun and pretty. So this is the card that we're going to be making, and I'm using two sets from Stampin' Up. The first is a current set, and it is the Carols of Christmas. And from this set, again, I always apologize for my overhead lighting and the glare. We're going to be using the Peace on Earth words and the deer. And we're also going to be using the die that coordinates with the deer from this set. And the die comes from the Card Front Builder dies, also from Stampin' Up, that coordinates with this Carols of Christmas set. And then we're also going to be using an older set from Stampin' Up called Happy Scenes. And we're going to be using the pine trees and the little snowfall. And this, like I said, is not a current set. You could probably find it maybe secondhand on eBay. But any hillside with some snowy fir trees, lots of companies have stamps that have something similar that will work with this card. And we're also going to be using some chalk ink from Colorbox. I don't know if you can see the label there, but this is their chalk brand, and this is in the color Popcorn. And then also chocolate chip ink from Stampin' Up. And you're also going to need some green chalk, whatever kind of coordinates with the green paper that you're using for your card base. So I had this really pretty bright green. It's not really a neon, but it is kind of bright. And so I wanted something that would be a good contrast with it because it is so bright. So I really like the craft in the black with that. And then I'm using the bright green chalk to kind of tie it all together. So this is just a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock that is cut in half. I've just scored and folded it for my card base. And then I've also got just a little scrap of white for the deer, a piece of craft colored cardstock, and this has been cut to 5 1/4 by 4. And then a piece of chalkboard cardstock, and this has been cut to 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. And chalkboard cardstock and paper is available from several different companies. You should be able to find it at most regular craft, big box stores, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, that type of thing. A lot of these have two different sides. The smoother, sort of more matte side is the side that you want to stamp on. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but see how that's just got a little bit of a shine to it, where this side is kind of more matte and more smooth. The matte, smooth side is the side that you want to stamp on. So let me set my card off to the side and get my stamps inked up. So the first thing I'm going to stamp is the Peace on Earth words. And you want to make sure you've got a really good coverage all over of your stamp of the chalk ink. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to stamp that in the upper left-hand corner of my chalkboard paper. Get that a nice press there. See how pretty and bright and white that is? Now, another thing to mention about the chalk ink is that it stays wet for quite a while. So while you're working on your card, you need to be really careful not to smudge it, not to run your fingers through it or anything like that. Try not to touch that ink for a while until it is dry. If you want to, you could heat set it with your heat tool in between your stamping if you have a lot of trouble with some smearing. So now I'm inking up those trees. I'm going to kind of stamp those down in the lower right hand corner. Again, give it a good press there so get a good image. There's our trees. And then I'm going to take the snowfall and just kind of randomly stamp the snowfall around, kind of going off the edges and just filling in those spaces and kind of being careful not to touch the wet ink on my card. Probably should have put a little piece of scratch paper down, but that's okay. That's a nice thing about these mats, is that they wipe off really easily. So we are now done with the chalk ink. I'm going to get the chocolate chip, and I'm going to get my little piece of scrap of white, and I'm going to stamp out the deer. Get that inked up really nicely. There we go. I think my ink pad's getting a little bit dry. Stamp that on that little scrap piece of white, like that. And now I'm going to take the die and line it up. I'm going to take a little piece of repositionable tape. You could use Post-it tape, washi tape, any type of a low tack tape. Kind of line that up, and then I'm going to tape the die in place so that it doesn't slip. And I'm going to bring my Sizzix Big Shot over, place my die inside my plates, run this through the die cut machine quick. Run that through a couple times, make sure that it cuts. Sorry, I'm kind of doing it off camera. I think we all know how to run a die cut. So there's my cute little deer. Machine out of the way. And now I want to add a little bit of color to the chalk ink. So I'm taking a square of chalk that's very similar in color. Looks a little bit bright on camera, but it's very similar in color to the cardstock base that I'm using. And you can use a chalk applicator, little sponge dauber, whatever works. I just like to use Q-tips. They're just quick and easy. So because this ink is wet, it can easily smear. So when we're applying the color, you don't want to rub so much as kind of tap and dab. So I wanted to add just a little bit of green on the words. So with the on in the piece on earth, I'm just dabbing some chalk on the word and on those lines in between, and I'm going to blow to kind of get that excess off. So you can see by dabbing it doesn't really smear the ink. And then I'm going to do the same on the trees, but just kind of down the center, because I still want them to look like, turn that a little bit so I don't run my hand through the ink, just so that it looks like you can still see a little bit of the green through there, but like there's frost and snow on the end of those branches. I don't want a ton of green. And again, I'm just kind of tapping that Q-tip on there to get just that little hint of green. So they still look like they're kind of snowy on the ends, and you can blow off the excess. And we are done with the chalk. Grab my craft. And so be careful when you're adding your adhesive. When you lay this down, again, you don't want to smear it. If you want to let it sit and dry for a little while before you do this next step, you could. I'm just going to add some adhesive on the back and adhere that to my craft piece. Again, being careful to try not to smudge that. Center that on there, press that down, and now I'm going to adhere the craft piece to my card base. Center that on there, and I'm just going to get a tiny little foam square and place it in the center of that deer. peel off the backing, which is really sticky and doesn't want to come off. There we go. And then place that deer on the hillside there. And that's our card. Really quick and simple. You could sit down and make a bunch of these all at once. Just be careful not to smear your ink while you're working. But I just thought this was pretty. I love the chalkboard look, that bright white on that black with that kind of pop of bright green. I think is really, really pretty. So thank you so much for joining me today. Just wanted to share a quick and easy Christmas card for you, and I hope you have a very happy holiday season. Thanks for joining me. This is Heather. Bye.